Got teens? Then stay right here. This episode is for you. If you feel like navigating the teen years is like walking a tightrope, or you're not quite there yet, but you're already stressing, you're so not alone. Raising teens, raising kids, raising young adults, it can feel like you're trying to parent a pack of wild goldfish. You're never knowing which version will swim out of their room next. And I know you're just like me. You want to give them everything. So today's conversation, this powerful episode, I'm joined by team life coach, Kristi Simons, and she's also a podcast host. And she's all about helping families build stronger connections, raise confident, resilient teens, and to truly trust that you in your soul know what's best for you. You know what's best for your teens. We're getting real about the challenges, the messiness, and the game-changing strategies and mindsets that help you and your teen thrive without you losing your sanity. So trust me, if you're parenting a teen or you're about to, you need this conversation. And Kristi and I are so happy that you're here. Hello, my wonderful community. Welcome back to the podcast. I'm really excited about today's conversation for so many reasons, because right now we have Kristi Simons on the podcast, and she is not only you a delight, but I love that you're a life coach, but you have life coaching with a different angle. And I feel like that's something that is really refreshing, because a lot of times when people hear the word life coach, I'm a life coach, they're like, oh no, she's going to tell me all the stuff I'm doing wrong. But you come in and you're like, no. This is all about like putting ourselves up on this pedestal, helping us build our confidence, helping us take the most aligned action to help us live this beautiful life. So as I said in the bio, you were a teacher turned life coach, but talk to me about that. I want you to introduce yourself to my community and then talk to me about this massive pivot that you made and why.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited to be here. Scotty, I made myself a tea. I was like, I'm getting cozy, and I'm really excited to dive into this conversation.
Me too.
But my name is Kristi. And as you said, I was a teacher. I am now a teen life coach. And really, truly, I feel like the one thing that I have come to realize in my own life is that it's so important to prioritize the small moments. So when I tell you about my story, there is so many small moments in there that I would never want to overlook, but I just don't have the time and space to tell all of that today. But I'm going to take you back to 2020 when I first became a mom. And that's when everything really, really shifted for me. Like, that's when I felt like this breakdown. All of the parts of who I thought I was were really, truly just starting to signal me that something needed to change. And back then, I knew that the change needed to be me, but I wasn't even sure where to start or what that was going to look like. I just knew that I wanted to do better. Back then, it was for my son. Okay. Now the focus is my family, but it's also myself, because I realize when I'm focused on bettering myself, it does, in fact, give back to all of those around me in a really, really profound and meaningful way. So after the birth of my son, I had a series of mental health breakdowns. I struggled to overcome addiction. I had my second in there, my daughter Beatrix. And after she was born was when I really, I would say after I had my son, I was really searching for more like self-love. Like, I had lost like all this love for myself. And actually, when I was thinking about this upstairs, just before I was getting ready for this recording, I thought to myself, what was it about that? Because I'm going to talk about this on the podcast. Like, what was it about that breakdown, like having my son? Like, what was it about motherhood that really shifted that for me? Yeah. And when I thought about it, it was the fact that I felt for the first time like this immense love. Like, I could tell that love was this endless source. And I was like, why am I just tapping into it now? It was almost like my younger self, or maybe it was even like my teen self, was like, how come you've never felt this way for you? Oh. Like, why is this only coming up now? So this came to me today before recording this podcast. I hadn't even thought about this before. Wow. So anyways, moving forward, I feel like that was really the connection. So all of a sudden I started to connect to that. And then through the process of, essentially the last 4 years, I have gone on this journey of self-love. Mm-hmm. And then over the last few years too, it's really been about building my confidence. Mm-hmm. And so once I was able to find more love for myself, I found that I was actually wanting to show up for the way that I wanted to feel. I was putting more things on my calendar for myself. So I was in fact taking action, building all this evidence. And I was like, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
Like, this is the confidence I didn't have when I was a teenager. Like, I'm starting to figure it out now.
Yeah.
And that's when, through all of this, I just realized that the classroom wasn't it for me anymore. Like, I wanted to be able to teach and create and to share this new language that I had learned a little later in life, because that's what I was realizing it was too. I was like, this is a language that I never learned. I never learned how to shift all of those beliefs that I had or those thoughts that I was having about myself. I didn't know how to see them through a lens of love.
Mhm.
I just hadn't learned that. So now what I do is I lead youth and teens back home to that language of self-love, confidence, and empowerment. And it's essentially like all of the stages so far of my journey. So now moving into empowerment, which I love that you spoke of how my work is really done through a different lens,
Mhm.
because it is. And it's really exciting for me because it's still new. But what's happening now is I have, in the last few months, for sure, really tapped into my intuition, my intuitive gifts, and also mediumship, which I never would have ever known was a part of my journey had I not hired spiritual mentors and coaches.
Sure.
I've also had a coach through this entire process. So none of this was done alone. Like, I've had the support as well. I still have the support. Like, I'm still with my coach today. And then I have like sub mentors as well. But now what I do is, not only do I lead them back home to the language of self-love, confidence, and empowerment, I also help them by channeling their higher selves and being a vessel for that to come through, so that they know which actionable steps they can take, like now in this present moment. We can still set the goals. We can still put things on the calendar. Like, we can still plan for the future. We can also look back. Like, I feel like all of those things are important, but it's also important to, and I know I never used to prioritize this, to be present, like in the present moment, and enjoy the small moments. So yeah, teaching them how to do that, how to tap into that themselves, because there are a lot of teens out there that are so gifted in this way. And again, I would have never known that this is where my work could lead me had I not taken the chance on myself either way back when. So that was a little bit longer than I thought it
I
was
love
going
it.
to be, but
I
that
love it.
needed to
It's
come out
great.
today. So
Well, first of all, thank you so much for opening up about the challenges that you faced right when you became a mom. I think, there's a lot of moms who think that they are the problem when maybe things aren't clicking right away. Even as from the second you're leaving the hospital, you're thinking, oh my gosh, my milk hasn't come in. They're not latching. Something's wrong with me. I'm the problem. I'm the problem. And, even in just admitting, like, this isn't as easy as I thought it was going to be. This doesn't fulfill me up like I thought it was going to. I'm not really feeling as confident. In fact, when I became a mom, I was just oozing out confidence. I was leaking it in everything that I did. And I always thought, well, I'm the problem. I need to be fixed. This is no other mom out there is having these challenges. There's something wrong with me. So I really do appreciate you being honest and vulnerable and admitting that you were running into some real struggles, because I think there's a lot of moms who need to hear, okay, I'm not alone. And look at her. She did the work. She identified what she was specifically dealing with, and then got support systems, started asking some big questions, but then decided, yeah, I've got to take some action to help me plug those confidence leaks. And you talk a lot about the action, which I think is really important, because it's not, and I love that you brought in the mediumship and the connecting to our highest self, because it's so wonderful to go after goals, to manifest the life of our dreams, to set those big goals for your highest self and tap into your intuition. But none of it it's all for naught if we're not taking action. We can sit here and make vision boards and tell ourselves, yes, next year is going to be the year. But unless we actually do it, unless we listen to our gut, unless we follow our heart, unless we actually take action, none of it's going to work out, right? So talk to me about that. Especially, I think it's wonderful because you're helping teens. Our kids, what they're programmed, and pretty much their beliefs are and identities are formed from 0 to 7. But they're not solid. They're still Swiss cheese in a sense. Like, they're still receiving what they're watching on social media, what their peers are doing, what their siblings are doing. There's a lot of comparison. There's a lot of FOMO. So those teen formative years, I would have loved if I had had a mentor and a coach and a podcast that I would have helped me. So talk to me about this specific area and how you identified this need in yourself, that you needed this kind of guidance as well.
Oh my gosh, I love this. I love this so much, especially in terms of like what you said with taking action. I like sat up straighter. My whole body language has shifted. I'm like, I'm in it now. Okay. So what I didn't realize back then was that, well, it really comes back to something super simple. And I'm sure you're already aware of this, but that the E for emotion, the E in emotion stands for energy in motion.
Mm.
So when I discovered this, and then when I hired my own coach and I put myself in spaces where the conversation was different, I mean, that plays a huge part, but it was really about tapping into this idea about our energy and our energetic bodies. Like I always knew that I had a physical body, but I was never connected to anything energetically. Even like when I first took like Reiki 1 and 2, like this was all mind blowing to me to discover like the chakras and all of this. But I'm not going to go into detail about that today. What I really, really loved about what I learned from my coach over the last few years is just about emotional intelligence and really understanding how to connect with our emotions and viewing them as like an important part of life, like that we're just like this beautiful machine and we have like these signals running through our bodies and these emotions that we're like gifted to have. Like this
Yeah.
is one of the best parts about being, you know, a human, having this experience. And so what I loved about what she taught was that we have these 4 energetic bodies: spiritual, mental, emotional, and physical. And so I really started through my own healing journey to focus on these 4 key areas. And what I have come to realize, Scotty, is that like 90% of what we do, like the way that we show up, like if you can focus 90% of the time on your energy, the 10% that you put in besides that, that is the strategy, but like that will get you to where you want to go. It's all about your energy and how you show up energetically.
Yeah.
And so what I teach my clients is to do just that. And I started to see the through lines. Like I never knew that teen coaching was where my journey was going to take me. That happened because of the pandemic and COVID. And I was helping teens just buy back their credits in order to graduate. And then I started, like, I noticed that there was also a need for this as well. Like they didn't know this language. So that's how that all came to be. But essentially you pay attention and you start nurturing and you start focusing on these 4 key areas. So spiritual energy is really just more of a connection to self. It's a connection to something deeper. Like I said, like that day, well, today, even though I knew I felt it that day, but today when I realized that was just it, like that source that we are all connected to, it's like endless. And it's love. So spiritual energy is really about coming back to that. And of course, like I teach different ways to do this in my course in coaching. And then there is mental energy. So this is the one that still challenges me. And it is all about those limiting beliefs and the stories that we tell ourselves and learning to think about what we think about, learning how to reframe. Like this is really where like the language component comes in. I actually recorded an awesome episode last week. It was my first ever like live podcast recording that I did. So
I love
people
that.
were there. Yeah, it was so much fun. But I did like I channeled this tool for breaking the worry cycle. So whatever worry looks like to you in your life, yeah, it's essentially this tool that you can take out with you day to day. And it's literally just about sharing your message with yourself through like a mind, body, soul connection. Like that's all it is. That's all you need to do to interrupt the cycle. So anyways, that's mental energy. Then we've got physical energy. So physical energy is really about how you fuel your body. It's also about your environment and your space. If you're somebody like me, like clutter is something that can really affect my energy. So it's paying attention to, the sleep, the nutrition, like how much sunlight you're getting, time you're spending in nature, like moving your body, all of that good stuff. And then there is emotional energy. So this one is actually my favorite because it still looks like moving the energy, but it's also about understanding our emotions, learning how to actually sit with them, be present with them, and really just like allow them to feel seen, heard, and understood. If we ever think about in our own lives, like what makes us frustrated? I know, and I don't mean to call my husband out right now, but I know when I'm trying to have a conversation with my husband and I don't feel like he's seeing or hearing me or, maybe understanding me, that really frustrates me. Like
Yeah.
it definitely sets off those signals. So I know that our emotions are the same way. They need the space to breathe. And once they do, once we allow them that space just to feel acknowledged, we're able to actually harness that energy and shift it in the direction that we want to go, aligned with how we want to feel.
Aligned.
So
Okay. Yeah.
yeah, that's essentially what I take them through. All of those four key areas are, yeah, designed to help them just come back to the language. Again, they're filling their cup, they're speaking to themselves in a different way, they're connecting with themselves on a deeper level. You have no clue how often I'll sit with a client and I'll ask them, so like, what is it? Like, why are you here? Like, what is it that you desire? Like, wouldn't it be cool if? And they don't know.
Yeah.
They don't know. It's just they're not used to it. It's uncomfortable. And it's just maybe not something that they show up for. And it's not something that I used to show up for either. And I can see now why I felt so disconnected before. Again, motherhood really allowed those pieces to shatter.
Yeah.
And I've been putting them back together over time. And now it's just really cool because the more you practice this too, you realize that you are just like this beautiful mosaic in like all of your imperfections. And like anybody's seen a stained glass window before, when the light shines through, like it's the most beautiful thing. So you just have to remember like that's essentially your journey, and that you can follow, taking small actions. Again, strategy, 10%, taking small actions in all of these four key areas will allow you to tap into that power, that source that you have within, so that you can feel more confident in your life.
I love it. And one of the buzzwords, this is beautiful. One of the buzzwords that's being tossed around constantly right now is alignment, right? Like, oh, everybody needs to be aligned and tap into your alignment. Let's get aligned. And I think a lot of times people don't really know what that means. And you just explained it in a sense, right? Like we are not just thinking bodies, we are feeling bodies, emotional bodies, we are energy. And I think a lot of times those are overshadowed and there's so much pressure put on here. What is the answer? Thinking through it, the pros and cons list. And a lot of times people don't move beyond this, right? And what our brains have to have evidence, right? We need proof and evidence that things are going well. So we kind of stay in this one, quadrant. But you're talking about this real beautiful connection between all, our full self, knowing ourself and our truth too, which is incredible, right? Like knowing yourself spiritually, connecting to that in what is greater than us. There's this beautiful, even if we're not religious, we all know that we didn't just magically get here. There is a greater system at work, right? That's been in existence before we were here. It'll be in existence after we're gone. And everybody has a relationship with that somehow, right? And I think you just really explain like the spiritual, the mental, the emotional, the physical. That is the alignment. Those four bodies working together and knowing yourself and your truth. And the way you're taking these blessed teens through this, you're creating tools, foundational tools that they're going to be able to carry with them throughout every stage of life. And I mean, one thing that I know from especially being a mom, you cannot predict. Things don't always go like you think. In fact, actually plan for that. Plan that things will not always go the way that you think that they should. We have little control over what's going on around us, but we always have control how we respond to what's going on around us. And if somebody is armed with these tools that you're giving them, how they can show up spiritually, connected to their spiritual self, their mental self, like all of those pieces, that's a full body aligned response, which is so unbelievable, because that's honestly what I really think is one of the largest reasons why people feel disconnected. And unfortunately, it does take something as significant as a life change, right? It's usually a death, a birth, a move, being laid off, like something that really shocks your system. And then the underbelly is revealed, right? Like, oh, you were a house of cards this whole time. And now when, it's like, now you're not really fully ready to go into battle. This is getting them ready to go into battle, right? In a way that's going to feel so good for them, so that when they're faced with I've never seen that before, but I'm okay. I know I can respond to it because I've got all these pieces, which I love. I mean, that to me is the alignment. And I think a lot of times people don't even know what are the four pieces. So thank you for explaining the four bodies of energy. I think that's really important. I think it even ties into goals because a lot of times people, exactly how you just said, when someone, gets to that line and they say, I'll be happy when I lose the 10 pounds. I'll be happy when I have a baby. I'll be happy when I get into that school. I'll be happy when someone asks me at a homecoming, right? Well, then the person asks you, or you do lose the 10 pounds, or you get into the school and you have to admit, wait, maybe I'm still not happy because that wasn't the whole point, right? Like you had to go dig deeper to understand why. Why do you want to change physically? What's that going to give you emotionally? What's that going to give you spiritually? What's that going to give you, and like really help them know themselves in their truth. And that's what you're doing, which is so beautiful. And so how do they find you? How are because it's hard to admit like, hey, I'm a teenager and maybe I'm not doing as good as I told my friends I was doing. Like, how does that come to play?
You know what's interesting is I feel like in some capacity, the clients, like the teens that do come my way, their families, their parents are already in some way doing this work as well.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
so
Okay.
yeah, is what I've honestly really come to notice. Like there were people that were coming to me before for help with school. I've kind of stopped doing that now. It's still something that I'm able to help with if I need to. Like if it's something that's really causing them like a challenge or a block, I'll help them move through that for sure. But I would say that for the most part, it's like, yeah, they already have sort of a connection
Okay.
with it. It's just now how do they tap into that? Especially because I feel like for them, it feels easier to connect when it's somebody other than their parents.
Oh my gosh.
Coming from somebody else.
100%. I mean, if you told my teenager if I told her the sky was blue, she'd be like, are you sure? But if you told her, she'd be like, it is blue and it's so beautiful.
I definitely, I do like academic, like I do teen audits. They're academic and behavior audits. And I do this specifically, like, I mean, this is the way to get onto the wait list. So I won't just open the doors unless I know that there's actually going to be a connection and that it'll be an aligned fit, essentially.
Okay.
Right. Yeah. I feel like that's really, really important because I feel like if they're going to show up, but if they're going to show up and not necessarily want to take like any small action on the work, like I feel like it needs to be like the conversations maybe need to start happening. Like the podcast is there. There's so many resources. But yeah, I would just want to make sure too that it's something that they're ready to really open themselves up to because it's an incredible, incredible journey and experience. And it's something that is honestly really, really simple. But I know it takes bravery and I would never want to force anybody. Like there can't be any control. That's the word I was searching for. Yeah, I like to make sure that it feels like there's no pressure. Like this is meant to be something that you take with you for the rest of your life that helps you feel and grow and just do better each and every day. And that's like literally it comes back to for yourself. You're not doing this for me. You're not doing this for anybody else. I am just here to be like a guiding light to lead you home back to yours. And in terms of like even like some of the teens I was saying in the beginning, like when I ask them like what it is they desire for themselves and they can't answer that, I still like to plant those seeds, right? So it's just about planting seeds over time because you're starting to create those small connections. Like they are hearing you.
Yeah.
They're hearing what you say. And so you start planting those small seeds knowing that eventually once they do create that connection with themselves, like that's when they're going to start to harness that power. And what I've noticed is that they come to this place where they start to realize that they can feel calm. If you're not constantly worrying about all the things that you actually don't need to be worried about and that aren't true, imagine how much space that frees up in your mind to be able to like sit back into that place where you just feel calm and connected to yourself. That's where creativity lives. So we're asking them all these questions and they don't have the answers because they can't hear them. I couldn't hear them either before. Do you know what I mean? So it's really about like starting, like this is for parents. I mean, if this can help in any way, like what I always do with my clients is I just start out by like having them write like a wouldn't it be cool list.
Oh,
And as they write this wouldn't it be cool list, they start to write down all of these different things, right? It could be from like just I want to go take a walk, I want to have like hamburgers for dinner, I don't know, to going on a vacation somewhere, right? Like the possibilities are limitless, but you just write it down. The second step is to actually look at that list and then start to pick out, like, if you did these things, how would that make you feel? And start
yeah.
to get them connected to the actual like emotion and really shifting into that language. Like, would you feel connected, joyful, energized, more at peace, calm, like whatever the case may be? For me, bravery, creativity, freedom always come up. And once you have those feelings, so now we're reverse engineering, and this all has to do with like my years as a teacher, but now we're reverse engineering how they actually want to feel. So yes, they put down this wish list, but it always comes back to the energy. It always comes back to the E in emotion. It's the energy in motion, and they're desiring to feel free, for example. So what small things can you put on your calendar in order to feel more free? For me, 4 years ago, that was running. I did not feel free. I felt scattered. I felt broken, and I didn't know how to put myself back together. All I knew is I wanted to feel free from it all. And so I started running, and I was only running like 5 or 10 minutes a day. It grew over time and it became something way bigger than that. But it was just, again, it's just reverse engineering how you want to feel. And anybody is capable of asking themselves simple questions, putting it down on paper, and then just taking small, again, the strategy is 10%, small steps each and every day. They will compound over time, and you'll wake up 4 years later and you won't believe how much your life has changed.
I love that we'll talk about the small steps in a second, because I do think it's so important, and it's something that people don't realize. Like even 1% today over yesterday, think about what a difference that's going to make in a year, right? But it's really like you're taking them through this beautiful journey, helping them connect to themselves, to ask like, how do I really want to feel? And then through your safe environment, they're learning how to take these small, manageable, fits into their busy life, not so scary steps, right? Which all of a sudden that's boosting confidence, right? Because they're actually doing the thing. And then all of a sudden they're reaping the benefits of this reward. And then so subconsciously they're learning, wait, how I want to feel, it's actually a really good thing. Look what it's giving me, right? So it's not only are you actually helping them physically take these awesome action steps to change their life, there's also this beautiful belief of like, oh my gosh, I matter. How I feel matters. And it actually puts me on the right path. Like my feelings are not evil. My feelings aren't bad, even if they're different from my mom's, even if they're different from my best friend, even if they've never been, shown to me. It's just like this beautiful self belief, right? And honestly, that's going to be so empowering, because, nowadays, like how my kids are growing up, I've got a 17-year-old, a 16-year-old, a 12-year-old. I'm learning as they're learning, because I also am learning about social media. I can't even imagine the speed of which they are receiving information. You have to be even 10 times stronger, I believe, in order to combat what's going on. And so this kind of support, I believe, is more crucial than ever for these kids to get supported, encouraged, creating safe spaces for them to say, this is how I'm feeling, this is how I want to feel, and to be unconditionally like, yes, you go for it. And then them also learning how to rely on themselves. I think going back to what you said in the beginning about, it's learning how to give yourself. You said I needed to learn what to give, that language that I needed to hear, that what I needed to give myself that I was never given. A lot of times I think we are always believing our worth is based on other people, places, or things, right? And so we're putting all of our happiness and focus on things outside of us, when truly the first step is like, if I want more love for my family, I've got to learn how to love myself more so I can receive more love, right? And that's exactly what you're doing. You're literally empowering them to be so self-sufficient, a one human show. And then not that we all want love and belonging and everything. It's a beautiful gift, but that just enhances us. It's not codependent, right? And I think that's just incredible. I do want to talk about the action steps. And then I do want to talk about how a mom listening to this could get in touch with you, and just if she's got some kids that she think could benefit, or just curious like what this would actually look like. But talking about the action steps, because I think this could benefit all my mamas listening, not just their kids. But you saw, it's like, what do you mean about like these small act, like this 10%, about like if they wanted to, 2024 is ending, 2025 is coming, they're like, 2025 is my year. Like, how would they make 2025 their year and still be a busy mom raising 3 kids, working a job, and she can't escape to a retreat every month to go work on herself? Like, what do you mean about the small action steps?
Okay, so what's coming to mind right now is when I joined, like when I hired my coach 3 years ago. And one of my favorite parts about being in community with her was that she actually did have like a community. And in this community, we would write every single Friday, we would write a win. We would write the habit that we were being most consistent with. And then we would also put an ask,
Okay.
because it's been really important for all of us to learn how to receive.
Okay.
And I didn't believe when I realized that like I wasn't alone in that. But in terms of just like the small actionable steps, what I do weekly when I see my clients is I put this practice into place. So this is
Okay.
always how we're starting off our sessions. We're starting off with celebrating a win.
Okay.
Because when I was a teenager, I know, like, if I could speak to my teen self, she needed to celebrate herself more. And it should be more than just a Friday. Again, this is something that needs to be
Start there.
practiced every single day. But you talk about small steps and how they can start to make a difference and how they can start to compound over time.
Yeah.
It's honestly, it's not even so much for teens right now. Like, what I am hearing, what I am feeling, what I know so clearly is it really has to do with everything that's going on the inside. Like, this is where they need to be taking those steps. This is where they need to direct their energy, is focusing on what they need from the inside out.
Okay. Okay.
So I feel like this is why this is coming up today, because if you celebrate your wins on a daily or weekly basis, if you focus on what habit you're being consistent with, and then if you make sure that, you're putting asks out there, like being able to ask other people for help and being able to like receive with that, like even just me, like asking you like, hey, do we want to collaborate and do a podcast conversation? Like putting yourself out there and creating connection with other people. But with my clients, what I do is we are always focused for the week ahead on our commitment to confidence. So we start our sessions off with the win habit ask. And then at the end, we close out with the commitment to confidence. And I can't even tell you, Scotty, how much joy it brings me to, because giving homework as a teacher never brought me joy. So now the fact that I literally get to co-create these actionable steps or these habits with them through our session that allow them to come back home to themselves. So, for example, this one teen girl that I'm working with, she, at the end of our session, we came down to and co-created her actionable step for the week. And for some, maybe it's 3, for some, maybe it's just 1. It depends, right? It's all what comes up for them during their session. But for her, it was literally just to practice like self-love. And so what we did through the session, and this is something that I've really been leaning into more now, it's a lot of fun for me just to witness like how they feel by the end, but I will take them through like this process of taking inventory of what's going on in their life. Okay. And then we will see it as like a point A, and, crossing over that bridge on the other side, point B, like where is it that you would like to be? Again, always linked to how they want to feel. And whatever comes up and out is beautiful. And we put that on paper. And then what I am doing with them is allowing them the space through Reiki and meditation to actually hear themselves through like my words. So I will essentially just say back to them what they've said to me in that session. And I feel like it allows the opportunity to break the cycle that's happening. And it just like plays a new tape that they're able to hear and listen to. So again, I'm taking from that and I'm co-creating their habits for the week. But what I've noticed with my clients more so recently is it's not even so much like, oh, I want to get to the gym, I want to do this. It's more about the way that they're talking to themselves and shifting that language and learning to actually sit with the emotions and process them. And yeah, that's kind of where we're at. But it can look like a number of different things.
Okay.
And yeah, they have the accountability as well. Like you talked about what that would look like inside community. And I know we'll get to that question too, but they have full access to me. So I do have teens that will message me and be like, I'm stuck. I think I'm in a cycle right now. I need to just like put this all out here because they know it's a safe space. I'm like a sounding board, which I meant to tell you too. I feel like you are an incredible sounding board when you're like, I'm receiving everything that you're saying. Like what you're saying and the way that you're translating my message is just beautiful. This is why I love having conversations with you. But yeah, it's the same thing. They have me as an accountability person. I do check in. Like some of them have asked me specifically to check in with them. I will do that. Again, you have to ask though. Ask and be willing to receive. So they know all of this coming in. It's just about empowering them to know that they have somebody that's there to support them. But it starts with like owning their own power first. And yeah, and it's a journey and it's a process. And it looks different for all of them, which is the cool thing too, because I don't want to put down schools. It's just that there's just gaps and there's things that I've noticed that we were limited, especially as teachers, in doing. And like this to me just feels like it's like everybody just gets to have their own unique journey. And I'm just helping them along the way.
Which I'm so glad you're pioneering, but I do wish that teachers did have more flexibility with that, right? I do. My goal for the future, my belief is that education won't be as linear as it has been in the past, right? And that we will understand, that everybody's, whatever their pace is the perfect pace, and whatever they're interested in, and I love that you're creating this. And it's really, I love how you're sneaking in the habits into the win, the habit, and the ask, right? Like those, without even them realizing it, they're already doing the work, right? And then you're creating this bite size. Go give me 7 days. Anybody, that is also so calming for our brain. I can do it for 7 days. I'm going to give you my best for 7 days versus go, kick ass all of 2025. I don't even know what's going on in 2 weeks, right? But I love that you're breaking it down in these like manageable, digestible seasons, right? So that like timing, so that they're not completely overwhelmed. But then if they were like, I didn't get to the habit, you're like, yeah, but you did kind of, because I had you win, I had you celebrate, I had you ask, I had you connect. This right here, that you showing up for you, this is the biggest habit of them all, right? Showing up to that Friday connection, showing up in the community and just even putting themselves in that space saying, I am worth this connection time right now, even if I didn't do the 7 days of habits, right? So I think it's beautiful how you're creating this. I'm excited for them. Like I wish I could see them when they're 35 and how they're thriving and how they're dealing and how they won't even have to tell themselves, oh, I need to celebrate. It's just going to be who they are. It's just going to become how they roll through life. And it's going to be incredible. And then they get to turn around and they'll just inevitably be able to share that with their own kids. And, my generation, we're the sandwich generation, right? Like I feel like every single day I'm breaking generational bonds of all the stuff that my mom, she was born in the 40s, bless her heart, women had zero rights back then. But, it's like now I'm sandwiched and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm doing all this work to feel better. But now I gotta like channel it this way too. I'm excited for that generation, not to put too much pressure on them, but they're just gonna already be living in that energy, like having the awareness that they are more than just a brain, right? That they're a body, they're a spirit, their emotions, and all of it matters. So, not to put too much pressure on you, but you're changing the world. So thanks.
Well, yeah, you had me getting emotional. It does. It honestly does. Like it makes me emotional when I think about it.
Yeah.
So I think about it sometimes, then I just have to, harness that energy in a direction that I really truly need it. But it does. And I believe that like more people are starting to do this. Like there needs to be more of us.
Yeah, there it is.
That's the thing. So yeah, imagining the work that they will go out there into the world and do with these skills, like the people that they will connect with, like not just their families, it's like all the people that they'll come into contact with and the ripple effect that will have. And again, I'm just a part of it. Like there are a lot of people, yourself included, my coach, like there are so many people that are, doing this work. And there are so many more that will follow behind us. I see it as like these small little communities and everybody's just leading each other back home. Like that's what we're all essentially doing.
Yeah.
I also believe that our lives are just like we are being held and we are being guided. I didn't believe that before, but I have found that now. So that's changed my journey significantly. And so when I practice leaning into that, because I do still get disconnected as well, but when I can come back online to that knowing, it's just a constant reminder that we can just enjoy like each and every day, and so can they, and everything will work out exactly as it should as long as we just stay connected to what truly matters.
Oh my gosh. And I know how much that sentence rings true because of the work I've done, but it's also a lesson, right? To really, when you're feeling overwhelmed by life, no matter what age you are, right? Just because we become adults doesn't mean we stop learning and experiencing and having all the, human experiences and spiritual experiences. But having that awareness of like, oh wait, I'm feeling off. I'm feeling disconnected. I'm starting like noticing your signals like, oh, I am not feeling that confidence in my own skin, but I know I can. I felt it before. How can I get myself back to home base, right? And so those tools are so incredibly helpful. One, I have two questions for you, and then you are amazing. Wait, actually three things. First of all, I just want to take a moment. You said, yes, I'm doing all these amazing things, but so are all these other people. I just want to take a moment and really highlight that you are on a very specific heartfelt mission. And I don't want you to, I just think you should say, I am amazing, period.
I'm amazing, period.
Because
Thank you,
while
Scotty.
there are
so many, I told you.
I know there are so many amazing, coaches and pioneers and way showers and light workers. And I'm thank goodness, because each one of us is bringing something so uniquely, important, right? We're all here for a reason. And I think that we will work together and we kind of, support each other and play off each other, but there's only one you, right? And there's only one of your specific heartfelt missions. And so I think what you're doing is really remarkable. And I'm so thankful for you. When you do feel disconnected, what is your one go-to that helps you get back into connection with yourself?
Oh, it's always a walk. Usually with my dog Layla.
Okay.
She's getting up there in age, and I'm not gonna lie, with this new ability I feel like I have, I'm really tapping into. I don't think she's gonna be here too much longer. So she's just been, I've been spending a lot of my time with her. I feel like she can really shift my energy. My doggy, my first ever fur baby.
Yeah.
And to be honest with you too, it's music. Like I've always loved listening to music. I have my headphones and I will just listen to music. I will listen to a podcast. Again, I will listen to something that I know is going to shift or break that disconnection. And that disconnection to me, which like I said, it's going to be episode 110 of my podcast this week. I know that to shift the worry cycle, like you said it, we just have to remember that we can essentially, like we can tap back into our power. Like it will knock us offline, but we're able to come back to that. So I know now it's like I have this toolbox. I'm like, hey, I'm going for a walk. I'm taking my dog. And then when I go on the walk with my dog, so these are actually the 4 steps. I'll take you through them very quickly. But all you have to do is ask yourself 4 questions. And I've seen it as like a mind, body, soul connection, as I said. So at the top, it's reflect. So you reflect on what's one compliment that I can give myself today. So again, shifting your energy away from what you were worried about to a compliment that you can give to yourself. The next one is connect. So that's at like your heart center. And when you're connecting, you want to think about something that you are really, truly proud of. So you're connecting to something about yourself that you're really proud of, creating a deeper connection to self. And then the next one is create. So that's kind of at like your gut level, really tapping into that intuition and just that deeper knowing. And create, I'm probably going to forget what create is. We'll come back to create. And then the last one is ground. So this is, the question is, what can I do today in order to live a beautiful life?
Okay. Love it. Reflect, connect, create, and ground.
Create and ground.
And I mean, everybody's language could be, I always encourage,
100%.
Go find your words, but I'm the same way. I think nature is my muse. And I think a lot of
Yeah.
times when we're spending all of our time on our laptops, on our phones, we are absolutely disconnecting from nature. We are nature, nature is us, right? So when I feel disconnected, when I start breathing is when I'm outside. I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
right. Scotty, I love that you were worried about XYZ. And it's not that that's not important, but let's, there is so much, I love that. There's so much grounding in that. And it's, again, I think when we say things like, oh, ground and create, it doesn't have to mean that we have to be a different person. It's just
No.
you go on this walk with your dog, you're actually just having a slightly different energy adjustment and intention on that walk. This is how I feel. This is how I want to feel. I know that walking is going to help me feel that way. That's what I'm doing, right? It doesn't even have to
Yeah.
be more complicated than that, but in that walk, it can completely shift. And it's beautiful because it fits into your busy life as a working mom of two, right? Like it doesn't mean you have to go and sit in meditation for 2 hours, right? Like we can actually learn how to come back to ourselves, sit in your car and deep breathe before you get out of the car and unload the groceries, right? And then like walk into your house, right? Just it's like that connection to self. And then how can all my moms listening find you, follow you, reach you, consume all of your content? Tell them where to go.
All of the things.
All the things.
So probably the best place to find me would be on Instagram. That's probably where
Okay.
I'm most active. So my handle is Confident Teen Teacher.
Love
You
it.
can also head to my website. That's where you will find the link to the teen audit. So that's
Okay.
KristiSimonsCoaching.com.
Okay.
And what else? Oh, the podcast, of course.
Yeah.
So follow me over at Confident Teen for more meaningful conversations. Yeah, my podcast is just that was something I didn't mention in the beginning, but I feel like it's something we've talked about before, but
Yeah.
that has brought so much to my
Mm,
life. Like
mm,
not just in terms of like the connections, like I get to learn, I get to teach, I get to meet people. It's just beautiful. It's the best gift I've ever given myself. And I can remember when I was too afraid to show up to start something like that. Like I did not feel like I was worthy. I did not feel like I had that I could use my voice in this way. So
I
it's
love
just
it.
incredible what you are capable of if you just take those small steps
I
day
know.
after
You
day.
never know, right? You never know.
No,
I love it. I think what you're doing is incredible. I mean, I took so many notes because of things that you said. I loved it. I'm still a pen to paper kind of gal. Thank you so
beautiful.
much for being here today. Thank you for making that massive pivot and stepping out of your comfort zone and going after your heartfelt mission and taking action and leading the way, showing people how it's done, right? Because you are actually living proof of your method, right? Like you have learned about your own 4 bodies of energy. You are taking those small action steps every day. You are, learning how to talk more positively to yourself. You are actually doing the celebrate, the habit, the ask every single day. So thank you. You're the example. So I really appreciate. Thank you for being here so much. You're awesome.
Thank you. I appreciate you.